What's happening, guys and girls? Acrinator here, and welcome to this review of Just Cause 2, a third-person action-adventure game developed by Avalanche Studios and published by Square Enix. I've previously played the multiplayer mod for this game on my channel, but I've avoided a full-on Let's Play for reasons I'll discuss later in this video. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this review of Just Cause 2. I was first introduced to Just Cause 2 mere weeks after I first established my Steam account. As most new Steam users do, I was looking around for good free-to-play titles before branching out into games that actually cost money to play. As fate would have it, Just Cause 2 just happened to be free for a limited time, and I managed to pick it up on the recommendation of a friend. I figured that I couldn't go wrong with a free game, so I added it to my collection. Even if I ended up disliking everything the game had to offer, it's not like I'd be losing any monetary value. Right off the bat, Just Cause 2 drops you into an enemy base with some of the most interesting equipment I've ever witnessed. You're given a seemingly infinite number of parachutes and a wrist-mounted grappling hook to take on most obstacles. You are also given a few guns that drop off of the common enemies, but the guns don't become noteworthy until quite a bit further into the game. As you progress, you'll notice how there are hundreds of weapons and equipment upgrades to be found in order to customize your arsenal. Without even unlocking every upgrade, any weapon can become extremely useful, allowing you to use it almost universally. That being said, there are certain playstyles that appear to be more effective than others. For example, I found that regardless of how many upgrades the SMG had, it couldn't match the power and precision of the assault rifle. This quite easily could have been my specific playstyle, but it certainly felt as though the slower firing, more accurate weapons were more useful than the rapid firing ones. While we're on the topic of efficiency, let's talk about the methods by which you can complete the tasks given to you. Just Cause 2 does a great job of allowing you to come up with the wackiest solutions to challenges, and giving them a fair chance to work. Want to attach an explosive barrel to a helicopter and then proceed to shoot down one with the other? Great! Tie up a statue's head to a tank and proceed to topple it? Awesome. Want to fly a cargo plane into an enemy base in the hopes of killing a single enemy general? Good luck piloting those hunks of metal with the aerodynamics of a potato, but go for it. While it may not be the quickest or easiest solution to do things, Just Cause is very tolerant of any crazy-ass ideas you can manage to concoct. Let's take a step back for a second. I mentioned using a cargo plane a few sentences back, and I wasn't joking. Just Cause has a huge variety of ground, sea, and air-based vehicles for you to steal, borrow, and use to your heart's content. Some of the higher-end vehicles even have weapons mounted on them, making it a hell of a lot easier to mow down the enemy militants. Even if you can't manage to come across any of those high-powered death machines, don't fret, because any piece of metal with some form of propulsion can become lethal as long as you have the necessary delicate touch. Though there are a lot of modes of transportation in Just Cause, they're not all as easy to pilot as they look. There's nothing too outlandish with the controls for the cars, and as someone who actually has a boating license in real life, I was pretty impressed with how realistic the controls for the watercraft are. It's when you begin to dabble in avian affairs that things get funky. Now, I've never flown any sort of aircraft in real life like I have boats, but I can imagine it's just about as difficult as it is in-game. My condolences to the poor soul that thinks it'll be quick and easy to do a bombing run on a military base, because airplanes are ridiculously finicky to say the least. In my experience, planes are easiest when you're moving in a straight line, or we're going to crash into the ground anyways. If you're really dead set on flying to your next in-game destination, I'd personally recommend using a helicopter, as they're much more maneuverable and stable, albeit slower than most planes. That's also something that takes up quite a lot of playtime, traveling that is. The island nation of Panau is massive to say the least, measuring up to over 20 square miles. This does allow for one of the largest playgrounds in modern gaming, but it also creates the issue of travel. Missions are relatively spontaneous in which section of the island they'll bring you to, sometimes leaving you with ridiculous distances compared to where you are from where you need to go. What's worse is that the fastest modes of transportation, planes, are often most difficult to come across. More often than not, you're left with nothing other than your grappling hook and parachutes to glide your way to your destination. Paragliding turns out to be the most reliable and reasonably fast method from getting from point A to point B. Once you actually get to where you're trying to go, the missions are a mixed bag, to say the least. The story missions are hilarious with tons of great dialogue and action packed into a relatively short time. I just wish that there were more quests like these, with less filler content in between each. It's unfortunate that the actual number of story missions is in the single digits, each with hours of monotonous side questing leading up to them. Now, it probably sounds like I'm being overly critical of the side quests, when in reality I do enjoy them. The rep grind quests for the 3 factions in the game are fun, but they're a different kind of fun than the story missions. They're more like a place for you to turn off your brain and enjoy the mindless insanity, compared to a place to enjoy witty banter and complex puzzles. That being said, there's certainly room for criticism in how the story progression is designed. Despite how strong your desire to finish the story as fast as possible might be, you can't skip through the minor quests. Completing these missions increase a progress bar called Chaos that controls when the next story mission is available. Technically, you can destroy random buildings and structures throughout the world to increase this progression, but side quests are objectively faster and more efficient. It's not just the side quests that sometimes annoy me about Just Cause, but the utter lack of creativity put into them. Each and every minor mission consists of the same simple task rehashed and recycled into different military forts around the map. You just infiltrate, occupy, and conquer various strongholds of the enemy, and fight off a mini-boss after the waves of defenders are defeated. Like I said before, I do often appreciate this turn-off-your-brain busy work, but that doesn't protect this design from critique. There is one more thing I'd like to discuss, relating to how this game performs on PC. Now, I don't have the highest quality graphics card, but I do have a decent one that should be able to run Just Cause 2 no problem, though that doesn't seem to be the case, sometimes. I'm not complaining about the fact that the game is usually locked at 30 FPS maximum. While 30 FPS is what I'd consider to be my minimum for how a game should run, I'd describe it as bearable more than fully functional. The part that really gets to me is when the game drops in performance at random, sometimes dipping into the tens of FPS. In a game with such fast-paced action that rewards quick thinking, you'd assume that it'd do everything in its power to avoid drops of nearly 15 frames a second. These happen scarcely, but the fact that they happen at all is a bit worrisome. What's more is that this problem doesn't seem to have any reasoning behind it. Sure, it can happen in the middle of a lush mountain jungle, but I've also had performance issues in the middle of the ocean, with nothing else around me. I'm not saying that you will experience similar issues if you play, but it is something to keep in mind. Just Cause 2 is a solid game, revolving around chaos and destruction in the name of spreading freedom, and who could possibly argue with explosions? While it may not be the most thought-provoking or original title out there, it is a thrilling adventure to behold. Just Cause is a great tool to mindlessly pass the hours by, and I don't regret playing it one bit. With all of the good, the bad, and the boring of this game combined, I find myself giving Just Cause 2 an 8.1 out of 10. It's kind of hard for me to recommend this game because it really depends on what you consider fun. I personally didn't mind the filler content too much, but I can't blame anyone who wants to avoid such tedious gameplay. Also, at the time of this review, you can pick up Just Cause 2 on Steam for $14.99. It's also worth mentioning that the multiplayer mod for this game is completely free and also available on Steam, so pick that up if you have a few friends to play with. It really transforms the experience. There are a lot of things to do on the island nation of Panau, and most of them make for a really enjoyable time. The action is solid, and the humor and wackiness are off the charts, while the game can lull you into an extremely monotonous task while waiting for the next adrenaline rush. While I didn't mind banging out the side quests all too much, I did always have the mindset of how much longer until the next story mission. Instead of using huge amounts of filler content, I'd say Just Cause would do well to remove the dull bits and allow players to decide what they want to do. But that's just my opinion. So leave your comments about your thoughts on Just Cause 2 and this review as a whole in the section below. Follow me on Instagram for the latest updates on when I'll be uploading YouTube videos, as well as when I'll be streaming on Twitch and other random posts. So if you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more like it, maybe even subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And that's all the time I've got for today, so until next time, don't die.